This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, welcome to today's session. In the previous session, we discussed about all kinds of what are the different types of objects that we have to create and what is the purpose in both ESR and ID, right? So, any questions on that, or are you still not clear with what kind of objects do we need to develop an interface?
Clear.
Okay, thank you. So today we'll discuss about as our scenario is a file-based scenario, both sender and receiver. So we discuss about how do we configure file adapter. So why did we choose NFS? And I have already explained you what are the different types of adapters in file, right? SFTP and FTP. Sorry, and SFTP and file adapter. And in file adapter also we have two types. One is file where which we use to connect to FTP server, and one is for NFS. We explained all these things. I remember, right? Are you clear with that? Okay. So now we'll talk about file adapter sender configuration. What are the different parameters and why do we choose them according to our requirement? Okay. So first thing is when you try to create a file communication channel, okay. So as I said, you have to select the adapter type here. Okay. Once you select the adapter type as a file, because we are having file-based communication, so here you get two options. As I said, you get two options. One is uh, file adapter, which can be used for FTP server communication or NFS. Okay, so it means either you want to communicate with FTP file server or NFS file server, where FTP is of port 21, where your NFS is a local application server, LAS. Okay, local application server. In this case, in these two cases, we go with file adapter in PA, and there is other case where you want to communicate with SFTP server. Okay, so in that case, we go with SFTP adapter. Okay, SFTP by default have port as 22. How do you come to know whether it is an SFTP or FTP or NFS? You will come to know about that during your requirement gathering itself. So when the initial requirement gave to you, so you will come to know when they tell you that you have to pick a file from this sender location. So they'll tell you what is the sender location, whether it is an third party file server, if it is third party, what is it, whether it is FTP or SFTP. If it is an SAP, then it will be local application server, which is NFS. So whenever you say NFS, it means you are trying to pick a file or place a file in SAP application related file server only. Okay. So for suppose you have your PI application, you want to send the data to SAP. Okay, your ECC or S4 HANA. So in this case, you are doing a file-based communication, right? So as you are sending data to ECC or S4 HANA or your backend SAP system, so you have to connect to NFS only. Okay, you have to use NFS and then place the data, right? Yeah. So if it is a third-party file server, then it comes into picture whether it is an FTP or SFTP. Okay, is it clear? Because you should not get confused with these file servers, which one has to be used.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. Next. So in this case, I choose my adapter type as file because I'm trying to connect to local application server. And then I choose the transport protocol as NFS here because it's a local application server for me. Or in case, let us assume that I have to pick a file from third party file server, which is FTP. Then I go with FTP protocol here. Okay, when I selected FTP protocol, then it will ask me for IP address or host name. The server means here you have to provide the server details, whether it can be your IP address of the server or host name of the server. What is the port? You can see here by default it will give you the port as 21. Why? Because FTP for FTP default port is 21. In case some of the customers might change this, so in that case you have to give the appropriate port. For suppose you are trying to connect uh, from a particular FTP server, okay, and their port is 8021. Then in that case you have to provide the port as 8021 only here. Okay, so all these things has to be done. We'll discuss about this later. So now when we select NFS, these are the details that you have to provide. What are these? Source file, like source path. So from which particular location you want to pick the file. Let us assume that I have a file here. Okay, so let us assume that this is my source path where my source file will be available here. Okay, in this folder, this is my local application server network folder. So I can place the file here and then pick the file from here. So now my requirement is whatever the file that I'm going to have. Let us assume that I have created a file here. Okay, so this is my file which is available here, and I have to process this file. So now what is the file name? Okay, first thing is our directory. So my directory this is the directory path. So I can provide this here. So this is my directory path where PIECC SAP log BMF is my directory path, and I'm telling my channel that the I'm telling my channel that the source file what PI has to pick that is available in this particular directory. Okay, next what else I'm giving? I'm giving the file name. So file name here there are multiple ways for you. One is you can provide star. These are very important. Understand? Star means it will try to pick all the files that are available, not folders. All the files that are available. It doesn't matter whether it is a TXT file or whether it is a PDF file, whether it is a DAT file, whether it is an Excel file. It doesn't matter. It will pick all the files that are available whenever it is polling. Okay. Next, if I give it as star dot txt, then what it will do, it will try to pick all the files which are having .txt extension. Okay, so if you see here, this is one type of file for me. Okay, um, this is another file for me. Okay, so I have three different files here. One is a test file with a .txt, another one is this one, and another one is .xml. So now in this case, when I provide the file naming convention as star.txt, it will try to pick any file, it doesn't matter, it will try to pick all the files which are having .txt extension. Okay, it will not consider the other files for you. In this case, star, it will pick all the files here. Okay, now if I give it as a test star, then what it will do, it will try to pick all the files which start with test naming convention. Okay, so if I have test file here, it will be picked. If I have another file as test123, this one also will be picked. Okay, so let us assume that if I have these as If I have this as a test triple one, which is an XML file, this one also will be picked by my channel because I did not have any restriction on the extension type, whether it is a .txt or .xml. Okay, like this, any file, like it depends on the naming convention that you provide, what file has to be picked. So if you give it as a test star txt, then only txt files will be picked which starts with file naming convention as test. After that, anything it can be test file, test 123, test 7, test training, anything it can be. Any questions on these two? How do we provide and what it should be?
Suppose we are giving network path, how can it will take the credentials here?
No need for us to provide any credentials. So for NFS, no need to provide any credentials. So it will try to log in automatically for
Oh,
NFS because it's a local application server, right? The server that you're trying to connect, it is its own server. So why do we need it?
okay.
Why do we need it credentials?
No, I thought it is not local.
Huh. Because NFS, right? It's a local application server. Name itself says it's a local one.
Oh,
Excuse me, sir. How we will get to know the source directory path? Like they will give
Uh,
us or
Yeah, they will be given to you. Okay. So these
okay.
details will be given to you by the functional team, or they will mention it in the requirement document only, like from which particular directory you have to pick the file, or what is the file naming convention that you have to follow, either to pick a file or either to place a file. All these things they will be given to you.
Okay. File naming convention means what, sir?
This is the file naming convention,
Oh, okay. And if
right?
in that, yes, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
And in that directory, in that source, there are folders as well as different files. So
Hmm.
if we give asterisk, then it will pick only files but not folders. That is what you
Huh,
meant,
that's
sir.
what I said. Yeah, it will pick
Oh,
all the files, not folders. If you put a star here, then it will pick all the files that are available. It will not consider the folders because what you are saying, you have to pick files from this folder only. Okay, this is the what you see here, file name, not folder name here, right? So
yes.
file name, it will try to pick all the files that are available in this folder. Okay.
Yes, sir. If we want to pick XML, then start.xml.
Star.xml.
XML.
If
Okay.
you want to pick only PDFs, then star.pdf. Then all the PDF files with any kind of naming convention, it will be picked. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. These two things we'll talk about later. These are a bit complex ones. Like once you get an idea about how do we process these files, all these things, then we'll talk about these two things. Okay. Next, proceed.
Sir, one more thing, sir. In transport
Yeah.
protocol, we have NFS and FTP options. No, don't we
Yeah.
have SFTP as well?
For SFTP, we use a different adapter called SFTP adapter, which is not available here because
Oh,
it depends on the version. So this version is, let me see the version here. Okay, this is 7.5, but here the patch should be getting it somewhere. Build information. Fine. Because for some of the versions, SFTP adapter is not provided by default for some of the patches. Okay, for the latest patches, only SFTP adapter is provided by default. In this case, as SFTP adapter is not available for you here, if you want SFTP adapter, then you have to add that component additionally on this PI application, which can be done by Basis team. So
Oh,
in case of any adapters which are missing or which are not available, and if you want those adapters, then Basis team can get this done for you, where they can add additional add-ons on top of this application, and then you can start using it. Okay.
yes, sir. So
Okay.
SFTP will ask for credentials, sir?
Yeah,
It,
similar to
because
this,
it's third
similar
party
to
server.
FTP. Yeah, similar to
Oh,
FTP, it will ask you for credentials, all these things.
yes, sir. Okay. Will it be password protected, sir? Like I heard
Yeah,
some
you
password.
have to, no, if you see here, for FTP also, you have to provide username and
Oh,
password.
okay. Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, I'll talk about that later.
Yes, okay, sir.
Okay,
Thank you.
next. Um, okay, you have given directory and you have given file path. Now you have to tell your file adapter when you have to pick the file. So it's not that your file adapter, like you have to tell your file adapter when you have to pick the file, whether it is for every 1 minute or for every 10 minutes or for every 1 hour, like that you have to tell your file adapter. So that what it will do, it will try to, for suppose you have configured it as for every 10 minutes, then it will try to connect to this server, okay, to this folder nfs server, and to this folder at for suppose now the time is 8 a.m., so it will try to connect at 8 a.m. And if you provide the naming convention start.pdf, then it will try to look for any kind of pdf file with any naming convention, any pdf file. If there is any pdf file, then it will try to pick it at 8 a.m. Next, you have given the time frame as 10 minutes, right? Next, the next poll will be at 8:10. Okay, again at 8:10, it will try to connect to the same folder and then look for the files, PDF files. If there is anything, then it will pick again. If there is nothing, then that poll will be empty. Again, it will be connecting to this folder at 8:20. Like that, for every 10 minutes, it will try to connect to this folder and look for files. So we call this as polling. Polling means it will try to connect to this folder, or it will try to poll this folder for the specific file that you have mentioned. So we call this as polling interval. So you can see here the poll interval you have given by default, it will be 60. It means 1 minute. If you want, you can change it to 600 as a 10 minutes, okay, or 30 as a half a minute, like that. Whatever the timing I mean time that you want, you can use it here. Okay, fine. Um, Quality of service. Um, 1 minute. Okay. Next thing. So that is polling interval or poll interval. Um, no chip. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Next thing is quality of service. What does it mean? Quality of service means how do you want to define the interface? So you know that interface is of two types: async and sync. right? So the quality of service that we use for asynchronous is either exactly once or exactly once in order. Okay, so what does it mean? So exactly once or exactly once in order means it is used for asynchronous communication. Okay, exactly once means it's an asynchronous request. Okay, and exactly once in order means again it's an asynchronous request, but whatever the messages that are getting processed for this particular interface, they will be executed in a queue. For suppose if I have selected exactly once, okay, and I have 10 files. Okay, I've given exactly once as my quality of service, and I have 10 files which got picked at 8 a.m. Now what happens? All these 10 files will be processed in parallel or simultaneously. Okay, so all these 10 files will be processed in parallel at the same time. So there is no dependency on processing these messages one to one. Okay, all these 10 files will be processed individually as a 10 different messages, and they will be processed in parallel. Whereas if you select your quality of service as exactly once in order, and I have 10 files, okay, and my interface picked all these files at 8 a.m. Now what happens? These files will be processed in queue. In queue means what are the file that got picked first. So first file will be processed first. Okay. Once it is completed successfully, then it will go to the second file. Once the second file is completed successfully, then it will go to the third file. Okay. So it means everything will be done in a queue. So what are the file that got picked? It will be processed first, then it will go to the second file, then it will go to the third file, like that. That's the way it works. For suppose if there is any failure in the second one, then the rest of the files processing will be on hold. So there is a dependency here. So there should not be any error on the uh, message that is getting processed in the queue. If there is any failure, then it will affect the subsequent messages also which are in, say, a queue to get processed, right? So that's the difference between exactly once and exactly once in order. Mostly we go with exactly once for asynchronous communication. We don't use exactly once in order unless it is required by your customer or as per the requirement. Okay, but you should know the difference, what is exactly once and what is exactly once in order. Is this clear?
Sir, here PI picks all the 10 files at a time for exactly
Yes.
once.
Yes,
Okay.
all the 10 files at a time. For exactly once in order also, it will pick all the 10 files at a time.
Oh,
But it will
but
process them in a queue.
okay, sir.
Yeah. Next. For suppose your interface is a synchronous communication. Okay. Then in that case, we go with the best effort. So best effort means it's a quality of service that we use for synchronous communication, and it will support both request and response communications. That's why we go with best effort. Whereas if it is asynchronous, either we choose exactly once or exactly once in order. Okay. So in this case, we go with exactly once because ours we don't see. It's an asynchronous communication, and then pole interval. Okay. And next important thing is processing mode. So processing mode, if you see here, there are four different types for you: archive, set to read only, delete, and test. We don't use set to read only at all. I never used, to be frank, because it is not needed for us in our projects. Either we go with archive or we go with delete. These are the only two options that we use. We go with test only in the development environment. I'll tell you why do we use test in development, not in other environments. First, I'll talk about archive. So what does it mean? Processing mode. Processing mode means, for suppose you have this file, right? So you want to pick this file, test file. So your sender channel pick this file. Once it is processed successfully, what do you want to do with this file? Because you don't want this file again here, because this is your source folder. If you still have this file in the source folder, again the same file will be picked, because that will be an duplicate data for you. So once you pick this file, you don't want the same file again in the same source folder. So you have to do something with this file. What is that you can do with this file? So there are three options for you, as I said. One is archive, another one is delete, another one is test. Okay, only these are the two options that you can do something with this file. So what do you mean by archive? Archive means once you process this file successfully, you can move this file to a separate folder. Okay, for suppose you have a folder here as archive, or you have a folder here as processed. What does it mean? It means files that are already processed, you can move these files from the source folder to this processed folder, so that your customer and you know that all the files that are available under this processed are nothing but files that are already processed by your channel. Okay, so for you, this is an archive folder for you, which means you are trying to move the files to this folder. So when you select archive, you will provide this folder path here. When you select archive, you will provide this folder path here. So it will ask you for archive directory. So this is my archive directory path, which I should be using to move the files that are successfully processed by my channel. So that my file will be moved to this test file will be moved to this folder when it is successfully processed, and for the next run, this test file will not be available here, or the same test file will not be available here. Rather, I might be getting a new test file from the source. Okay, is this clear? What is meant by archive and why do we use it? Okay,
Yeah,
next.
yeah, understood.
Yeah, next, delete. Delete means one option we have seen to move the file to a separate folder. Why we are moving it? Because we will be having a reference, so that we can see what is a file that got processed on a particular date at a particular time. For suppose today you got five test files. One is at 2 a.m., one is at 5 a.m. Like that, there are five test files for you. And tomorrow there are three test files, and day after tomorrow there are 10 test files. Like that, all these files will be moved to processed folder according to the time they got processed. So you will come to know list of files here, and then you will come to know at what time these files got processed and what are these. All these things you can check the data. But if you select a delete, what it will do is it will try to, once the file is processed successfully from the source folder, which is nothing but my BMF folder here, it will try to delete this file from here completely. So if this file is processed successfully, then it will delete it here. Okay, you won't be having any reference to the files which are processed successfully. Okay, so that's the delete option. So when you select delete option, it means you are trying to delete the file once it is processed successfully. Okay, next, test. Test means, for suppose you try to pick this file test123. Okay, so what happens here? So when you pick the file test123, either you have to archive it or you have to delete it. So if you keep the mode as test, what does it mean? It will pick this file, it will process it. Once it is processed successfully, it will not do anything to this file. It will keep this file as it is here only. For the next run, if there is any other new file, okay, okay, for the next run you have test 345. Now what it will do for the next run, again it will try to consider this file also, because it is still available here. So when you keep a test quality, I mean processing mode as test, same file, there is a chance for you to pick the same files again and again. Okay, why we go for test mode? we go for test mode only in development environment to do unit testing. As a developer, when you did the changes or when you have developed the interface, you might ask your functional team or someone else for a sample file to test it in development environment for yourself, to check whether the changes you have done or the mapping changes you have done are working fine or not. So for that purpose, what you will do, let us assume that you got this test123 file. So you connected to this folder, and then you place this file here. Okay, so you place this file here. So if you select it as archive, what it will do once it is processed successfully, this will be moved to processed folder. Okay, or else if you select it as delete, once it is processed successfully, it will be deleted. For suppose if you want to run it again after 10 minutes, like you have done some more changes and if you want to test it again, so again you have to place the file here again, right? Manually you have to place the file here. Okay, so to avoid placing the file again and again, what you can do, you can keep the processing mode as test, so that it will not either move this file from here or it will not delete this file from here. It will keep this file as it is here, so that for the next run also the same file will be considered. So as you're doing testing and you have only one file as a reference, so you can keep the file here and then keep the mode as test, so that the same file will be picked again and again for every poll, right? So that's how test mode works for you and how it helps you during your development environment testing. So is this clear? Archive, delete, and test.
Yes.
Okay. Next important thing is file type. So you have two types here, binary and text. So uh, binary, it's all about what is the type of encoding that you would like to use while you read the data. So for text, you'll get an option to provide file encoding, whether it is UTF-8, okay, or whether it is a UTF-16 or IS4 something, some naming convention will be there. You can select anything if you want, or else we'll keep it as binary only. Okay, most of the cases. Next, status. Status is something that is important for you to mention here, which what is the status you want the channel to be. So if you keep it as active and activate the channel, then channel will be running for you. If you keep it as inactive, ideally you are trying to keep this channel as inactive. So when you keep the channel as inactive and activate it, then channel will be inactive and you can't do anything with this channel. Channel is available for you, but it will be like inactive for you, like it will not work for you at all. But channel is available for you in your landscape. That's the only thing. So if you keep it as inactive, it will not work for you at all. So these are the main important parameters that we need to consider as part of file sender communication for NFS protocol. Any questions on these things that we discussed as of now, till now?
Sir, in processing mode, we see fault archive something.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
what is it?
these are like for suppose there might be few errors with the file. When you pick the file, your channel might come to know that this file is not the correct one that you are expecting, like that. So in that cases, you can select this option and then provide the corresponding directory where you want to move those files. Okay. So when you select archive, you are providing the directory where you want to move the archive files, right? I mean, while the files that are processed successfully, you want them to move to a particular directory. Similarly, you can provide a directory here where you want to move the all the fault files or error files, like this. You can provide enter directory as error, and then you can move all the files here, so that you will come to know any file that is available in this error folder is nothing but your error file. Okay, so I'll show you something else. Okay, I'm not able to connect to internet here. Okay, so you can see here, this is the configuration document for sender file adapter provided by SAP, where you can see what are the parameters that you have to provide, what is NFS, what is FTP, what is FCC, all these things are provided here. At the same time, you have what is an archive, okay, and if you select the timestamp here, what is the naming, timestamp naming convention, I mean timestamp format that you will get, delete, test modes. So all these things are available here. What are the different types for text? Okay. So all these things are available here. You can go through this and understand or about the other parameters that we discussed. I discussed the most important ones that are needed for your adapter configuration, which we use on daily basis. Remaining things we leave it blank as it is. We don't select them unless it is needed, right? Yeah. So yeah, you can search for this as um, SAPPI file sender communication channel. Then you will get all these things. Um, yeah. So this is for FTP communication. What are the details that you have to provide, server, host, or IP address, all these things. So you'll get these links, which will give you a basic information about what are the details that I discussed. It will give you details about your adapter configuration in the same way. Okay. Next. Okay, yeah. So that's it about file sender communication and how it works. Any questions? Any other questions? Next, we will talk about message protocol also. What is this and why, which one to be used? For suppose in my scenario for this interface, we have to pick a file. So how the content of the file can be? For suppose content of the file can be like an XML content like this. Okay, and this is my record. So my uh, the file that I would like to pick, so it can have the inside it can have the data in this format, okay, or in this format like this. So where I have two columns, first name, last name. Okay, where I have first name as my first column, the last name as my second column or second field, where I have details of three employees here. One is Shravan Kumar, Kumar Ajay, and Ajay Yadav. Okay, so either you can have data in this format or you can have data in this format. Okay, so we call this as a flat file and data in a flat file format, and we call this as a data in XML format. So if your file is having data in XML format, then we choose a message protocol as a file. If your file is having data in a flat file format like this as a CS comma separated or any special character separated or a tab separated like this, okay, tab separated like this, then we go with protocol as a file content conversion. Okay, so which protocol has to be used, that also you will come to know based on your requirement. They will tell you what is the content of that file, how the file will be, or they might give you a sample file, whether it is data file, data inside the file is an XML file, XML data, or is it a flat data. Okay, accordingly you can select the protocol here, message protocol, whether it is a file for XML, file content conversion for flat file content type. Okay, and if it is XML, no need for you to convert that again, because I already told you everything inside PI will be done processed in XML format. So already you are getting the data in XML format, no need for you to convert. But when it comes to file content conversion, you can observe here how many tabs you have: source, processing, and advanced. When you come to when you select file content conversion, another tab is added for you here, which is called content conversion, which will help you to convert the flat file, this flat file, into XML format using these parameters. We'll talk about these parameters in the coming sessions. So these parameters will help you to convert this data into XML data, so that once the data is converted into XML by the sender channel, this data will come into PI. Okay, come into PI in the sense that this XML data will be processed internally. Okay, so that's why I said your adapter will take care of converting the data into XML format and all these things for any kind of adapter. It's just that in some cases we have to provide the relevant information to convert the data into XML. That's it. Converting it will be taken care by adapter. Okay, so that's about a message protocol, file, and FCC. Okay, yeah. So that's it from mine for today. We'll discuss about receiver file adapter in the coming session, and then we'll talk about we'll try to process the files end to end and see how an interface works.
Uh,
Any
so
questions?
what is different with SAP ECC and PI?
Is it? I mean, already told you, right? So someone else also asked the same question. Is it you or someone else?
No, I'm asking for the first time.
Okay. See, PI is a middleware for you, which is provided by SAP. Similar to that, SAP has developed other applications also. Out of that, your ECC is also one of the application, which is a backend application. Okay. So PI, as an integration consultant, you work on PI. Whereas you have other consultants as ABAP consultant or a functional consultant. They will work on SAP ECC or SAP S4HANA, where that is a completely different application which will be used by them, not by you, where they will maintain the data inside that application, whether it can be data related to employees or purchase orders or invoices or anything it can be. It's all about the data. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
so it's not only about middleware. So there are many other applications, other SAP applications also available, so which will be used by different consultants. Okay,
Okay, okay, got it.
so basically your ECC or S4 HANA is your backend system, which will be used to maintain the master data or anything. Okay,
Yeah,
this PI is a middleware which will be used to communicate between these applications to exchange the data. That's it. So PI will not store any data. PI is all about helping you or helping you to exchange data from one application to another application.
okay,
Okay.
thanks.
Yeah. Okay then. That's it from mine. Thanks for attending today's session. We'll connect again on Monday, and then we'll discuss about other topics.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.